My name is Sarah Jennings, and I am an occupational therapist currently completing a Master's of Clinical Science in Driving Rehabilitation Therapy at the University of Western Ontario. Today I'll be presenting on driving rehabilitation therapy and my future practice in Western Newfoundland and Labrador. Driving rehabilitation therapy is the assessment, evaluation, and intervention of medically at risk and unfit drivers. Driving rehab therapy entails a comprehensive evaluation as well as interventions that may aid an individual to continue driving or participate in driving cessation. A driver rehabilitation specialist is a person who plans, develops, coordinates, or implements driving rehabilitation services for individuals with disabilities. Like myself, occupational therapists are health professionals who will often seek additional education and training to become a driver rehabilitation specialist. While OTs have the general knowledge and skills to evaluate driving performance, driving is a complex task, and thus many OTs seek specialized training to become more comfortable in completing driving evaluations. It is important to note that many other health professionals may become driving rehabilitation specialists, such as physiotherapists, kinesiologists, driving instructors, or evaluators, but OTs are the most common health professional to become a driver rehabilitation specialist. Why is driving rehabilitation therapy important? Driving is categorized within the term community mobility, which is defined as moving around in the community and includes driving, walking, or accessing public transportation systems. Community mobility allows individuals to access and engage in other daily occupations such as healthcare, employment, and leisure activities. As such, driving is an occupational enabler and therefore should always be considered in the rehab process. One study reported that individuals rate driving as the second most important instrumental activity of daily living, second to telephone use. This confirms how important driving is to our clients. In Newfoundland, there is currently one driving evaluation program, which is located in St. John's. There are no formal driving evaluation programs for Western, Central, or the Labrador portion of the province. This is alarming considering that clients rate driving as a priority IADL and given its implication on accessing other occupations. In Newfoundland, this has an even greater importance considering the large geographical area and lack of public transportation systems. The distance and cost to travel to St. John's for driving assessments is not appropriate for all clients in the province. Therefore, I feel that the development of a driving program for Western Newfoundland is needed. Who will benefit from driving rehabilitation? Any person who has a disability, whether physical, cognitive, or emotional, and has difficulty with driving will benefit from driving rehabilitation. The goal of driving rehab is to maintain an individual's safety in driving occupations for as long as possible. The proposed service for Western Newfoundland will benefit clients with a variety of health conditions since it will be available to the entire population and not limited to certain diagnoses. People with physical disabilities such as cerebral palsy, osteoarthritis, and amputations may need vehicle modifications such as ramps, specialized seating, hand controls, or left foot accelerators to increase their accessibility to driving. Individuals with cognitive impairments, such as those clients with early dementia, may require assistance with route planning and implementation of restrictions such as not driving after dark. They may also require support in beginning the process of driving cessation. It is anticipated that a large portion of assessments will be for senior drivers, considering our aging population in this area. The 2011 census indicates that we have nearly 78,000 people living in the western region, of which 20% are age 65 plus, which is more compared to the national average of 14.8%. In Canada, medical regulations related to driving are jurisdiction specific. In Newfoundland, regulation is monitored by the Motor Registration Division of Service Newfoundland. Reporting of a medical condition that affects driving is mandatory for physicians and health professionals. There is a standard form that must be completed and submitted to the Motor Registration Division. In addition, a medical completed by a physician is required for drivers at age 75, 80, and every 2 years thereafter. This is for a standard driver's license. There are specific rules related to a commercial license, which can be accessed on the Service Newfoundland website. Medical requirements are based from the Canadian Council of Motor Transport Administrators Medical Standards Guide. To give a couple of examples, visual acuity cannot be less than 20/50 with both eyes open. Visual field has to be at least 120 continuous degrees horizontally and 15 continuous degrees above and below fixation with both eyes open. The driver must be wearing corrective lenses if required to meet the standards above. In the case of seizures, the person must be seizure-free for 6 months. An individual who has had a stroke may return to driving if their medical exam indicates no residual deficits that will affect their fitness to drive. What is a comprehensive driving evaluation? A CDE is an evaluation of an individual's driving knowledge, skills, and abilities. A CDE is made up of a clinical evaluation and an on-road assessment. A CDE conducted by a driver rehabilitation specialist is considered the gold standard in driving evaluation. Klassen and colleagues report that a CDE includes assessment of medical and driving history, a clinical assessment of sensory perceptual, cognitive, or psychomotor functional abilities, an on-road assessment, an outcome summary, and final driving recommendations. Throughout the assessment, the DRS is keeping the client's driving goals in consideration. The clinical evaluation occurs when the driver rehabilitation specialist completes their initial assessment to determine current and potential strengths and challenges as well as client goals. The interview process allows the DRS to get to know the client in terms of their medical history that may impact their driving performance, such as history of stroke or amputation. It provides a means to understand their driving history, including the number of years driving, area where they tend to drive, and determine a history of infractions such as speeding or accidents. The physical assessment will give the DRS an indication of the client's strength, range of motion, and sensation. A visual assessment may be needed if the DRS does not have access to a recent eye exam. Standardized cognitive assessments such as the Montreal Cognitive Assessment or the Mini Mental State Examination are often used to assist the DRS in determining the client's general cognitive status. Other cognitive assessments, such as the Trail Making Test Part B, are used to assess divided attention, which is an important part of driving. The on-road evaluation occurs on a structured route whereby the DRS is assessing the driver's driving performance and gaining an objective understanding of the client's fitness to drive. For both the in-vehicle or simulator evaluations, the route can be designed in a closed, fixed, or variable method in order to meet the need of the client. For example, a variable method may be used for individuals who drive for their employment and must be able to navigate to places they've never driven. A fixed route may be appropriate for clients who limit their driving to the same area and have plans to restrict their driving to familiar locations. The in-vehicle assessment is also used to determine possible vehicle modifications that will enable driving. For example, the DRS may assess the need for transfer devices, advanced driver assistance systems, space limitations, etc. If available, a driving simulator may also be used for an on-road assessment. A simulator is a computer-based technology that simulates a driving scenario. There are a variety of types, costs, and technology available in driving simulators. The advantages of using a driving simulator is the ability to provide a safe environment to evaluate and practice driving. The evaluator can safely place a client in a challenging driving scenario for assessment purposes without placing them at risk. The disadvantages are that it is not real life and clients may not perform as they would in a real life situation, and individuals may be susceptible to the common side effect of simulator sickness. A study comparing driving errors during left and right-hand turns on a simulator and in-vehicle evaluation found relative validity in all 6 driving errors studied. including vehicle speed, vehicle position, speed regulation, signaling, lane maintenance, adjustment to stimuli, and visual scanning. This indicates similar trends in driving errors relative of the type of vehicle used. They also found no significant differences between the on-road vehicle and the simulator for driving errors pertaining to lane maintenance, adjustment to stimuli, and visual scanning, indicating absolute validity for these types of errors. This is an example of a fixed route driving course. It is based in Corner Brook and takes approximately 47 minutes to complete. The route progresses in complexity from suburban to highway to urban driving and incorporates a variety of driving situations. An example of a reimbursement resource for driving rehabilitation is the Accessible Vehicle Funding, which is a program available through the Government of Newfoundland and Labrador, Department of Seniors, Wellness, and Social Development. It was established in 2012 to provide financial assistance to families of individuals with disabilities to increase their transportation accessibility. There is a total of $400,000 available annually that can be used for modification of new or existing vehicles. Individuals can apply and be funded up to $25,000 for vehicle modifications that include ramps, lowered floor conversions, left foot accelerators, hand controls, custom seating, door modifications, spinner knobs, and wheelchair secure systems. Applications are completed by the individual or their family, and although it is recommended to consult an OT, it is not mandatory. Funding is approved based on date and not on need. On a review of this reimbursement resource, I feel that there needs to be improvements in the application and funding allocation procedure. This is a great program that may be being used incorrectly given that there is not a requirement for OT or DRS involvement. I feel that justification should be required from a driver rehabilitation specialist with application as well as approval and completion of the modification. In the future, I hope to work with the policymakers of this program to ensure that the funding is being appropriately and efficiently allocated within the province. As previously mentioned, there is currently no driving rehabilitation program within Western Newfoundland. My future goal is to develop this service, however, currently it is unknown whether that will be in the form of a private or public practice. At this time, there's a lot of work to be completed in advocating for such an important service. However, I'm excited to be part of this growing field and the possibility of helping individuals of Western Newfoundland continue to drive. Here is a list of my references. Thank you.